Dr. Niall McCrae is a researcher and educator in mental health and nursing at King's College London. His research interests include depression, dementia, and the influence of social media on mental health. Clearly all these subjects are relevant to our topic tonight. Author of three books, The Moon and Madness, Echoes from the Corridors, The Story of Nursing in British Mental Hospitals, and Moralitis, A Cultural Virus. So let's hear it from Neil, please.
Thank you for that, Chris. Just a slight update. I'm no longer at King's College London. I'm now working for the trade union, the Workers of England. And just to add another little bit to my biography, never tested, never tracked, never masked, never tried. Now people are beginning to understand why I don't carry a smartphone. But it's important to say that we need everyone, whether jabbed or not, to join our movement and to join us in our common battle for humanity. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to focus on the morality, or rather the immorality regime. For 11 years, I sat on an NHS ethics committee. All the standards and safeguards that we upheld are now disregarded. Informed consent, vital for any medical intervention, particularly for an experimental intervention. Transparency, conflicts of interest should be declared and scrutinised. For example, are there financial incentives? And perhaps most importantly, participants' safety and well-being. Regulatory bodies, which exist to protect us, have been corrupted by narrative and by the jabbing frenzy. The yellow card system, introduced in 1964 after the thalidomide scandal, has become a problem for the authorities. Aware of public concern about reported adverse reactions, June Rain, head of the Medicines Regulatory Authority, casts doubt on the validity of yellow card reports. She says, as we don't know how many are fake, we can't know how many are genuine. Yet this is a system that we rely on as a signal of risks and harm. Thalidomide was tested by the manufacturer, it was approved, but without adequate long-term monitoring. Pregnant women to whom GPs doled out the drug for morning sickness gave birth to badly deformed babies. How quickly we unlearn the lessons of the past. Almost 800 miscarriages have been reported on yellow card. But this is surely a tiny proportion of the true number. A distressed woman may not think of submitting a report. Many people are unaware of the yellow card system, while doctors seem reluctant to attribute any adverse event to the vaccine. June Rain has nothing to say about this. She has launched no investigation into any indicators of vaccine harm. Just get the jab, government ministers implore, after committing vast sums of public money to vaccine supplies for the population 6 times over, to go on for years with 6 monthly boosters. All this for a respiratory infection with a mortality rate similar to influenza. We know of occasional deadly outbreaks such as the Hong Kong flu of 1968, but potency fluctuates from year to year, and we're normally blissfully ignorant of the heavy toll, apart from headlines of a winter bed crisis in the NHS. I remember in my psychiatric nurse training, my placement on a dementia ward, a bad flu killed 7 out of the 24 patients. I got a nasty bout of it too. There was no quarantine, PCR tests, masks, or one-way corridors on the ward. They'd have made no difference. The fit and healthy can be debilitated by flu too. I found an old football programme in a second-hand shop with a very interesting manager's comment at Darlington Football Club. He said, "As if we didn't have enough problems on our hands, the flu epidemic descended on us with a vengeance to bring 1972 to a horrible end. First, we lost 7-0 at Bradford when the flu was just beginning to make itself felt. We had to play Alan Harding even though he was injured. And finally, we had to postpone the next 2 games against Workington and Lincoln. At one time, we had 6 players down with flu, which meant we couldn't possibly field a team. And the Darlington players were evidently still suffering because, according to the programme holder's pen, they lost 7-0 again. But life went on. The ill stayed in bed for a week, the vulnerable elderly for longer, and sadly, thousands of them fell to the culminating condition of pneumonia, traditionally known as the old man's friend. By contrast, doesn't want life to go on. Early in the crisis, they promoted the new normal. They are exploiting fear, as they've tried with climate change, to bring in an elite-led, post-democratic, post-liberty world of cyber surveillance. A technocracy in which ordinary people will have little freedom and little choice. Ethics will be a thing of the past. There will be no choice over what chemicals get pumped into your body. But are we not there already? I just saw this quote in a book on the way over tonight on the train. And Austria, well, it's certainly not all Edelweiss, is it? Professor Richard Pankert of Karl Franz University said recently, he said, page 38, here it is, he said, "Global warming deniers will never admit their mistake, and as a result, they should be executed." Perhaps it would be the only way to stop the rest of them. The death penalty would have to be justified in terms of the enormous number of saved future lives. Edelweiss. In my new role, I'm an officer of the Workers of England Trade Union and representing hundreds of care workers against the no job. Privileged middle-class managers and HR bureaucrats are sacking lower social class, poorly paid women. And this is not simply following the law. Workers who have submitted an exemption for health reasons, complying with the Act, are still dismissed. This is an ethical problem that threatens to destroy our society. Care workers are being kicked out, not because they're biohazards, but for reasons that are ideological and social. Ethical concerns seem to dissipate when the person before them is regarded as a misinformed and dangerous dissident who deserves no sympathy. Let us remember that in Nazi Germany, it was the professional classes that supported the regime most enthusiastically. I'd like to end with this question. If you support the mass vaccination program, where would you draw the line in its implementation? My line was crossed when the first was injected into a naive citizen's arm. And the rest will be history. Yes.